Hey guys, Xizzle here, and welcome to my new series called Counter the Meta, where I'll explore and go over ways on how to counter a currently strong meta picks by looking at their strengths and weaknesses. For the first episode, we're gonna take a closer look at Darius. Darius has been a really strong pick ever since his rework, and he even found himself a way into the World Championship. So, what do you do against this guy? First of all, we need to take a look at what makes Darius strong in the first place. Darius is a huge lane bully against melee champions, especially if they don't have any other way of farming other than getting up close and personal. On top of that, his power in small skirmishes can skyrocket through the roof, as he can easily get out of control by picking up a kill or getting 5 bleed stacks. The same applies for teamfights, albeit it being a lot harder to do. If you take your eye off of him, he might just kill your whole team in no time. If you ever let him get ahead, it can be very hard to shut him down, especially with teams that have low amounts of crowd control. Not to mention that he's not exactly the hardest champion to play. Now, this all sounds pretty damn strong. So, what are his weak parts again? First and foremost, crowd control. Any kind of slow, stun, snare or similar just makes his life a real pain. Did you ever just try to walk up to a Callista ending up dead instead? Yeah, that's exactly what Darius has to deal with on a daily basis. The same applies for poke. It's insanely hard for Darius to deal with long range damage, as he has no way of dodging it or hard engaging, other than flashing of course. He also has a few set items that he almost always wants to build as soon as possible to be a powerhouse. If he's forced off his favorable item path, his spike will be delayed by quite a bit and he's no longer such an insane threat as he would normally be. Last but not least, he's really easily ganked. His Q, Decimate, automatically pushes the wave, so simply walking into the lane may end up deadly for Darius players if they don't react in time. Be careful of potential counter ganks though. Now that we have both his strengths and weaknesses laid out in front of us, here's some general tips that may help out a ton against Darius. Your highest priority should simply be not dying. This may sound stupid at first, but if you don't exactly know what you're doing or how to react to Darius, one mistake may end up in death and letting him get ahead will only make things worse. He's much easier to deal with in teamfights, so aim for having an impact there instead. If you're already more experienced with the matchup and you prefer a challenge, make sure to keep an eye out for his passive. Letting him reach 5 bleed stacks will almost always result in you losing the trait, since he gets a ton of free AD, making it impossible to fight him up close. Not to mention that, even if you disengage afterwards, his bleed will also benefit from the AD he gets, making you drop low after the fight is already ended. So whatever you do, don't let him reach 5 stacks, or you'll most likely lose more health than he will, with the risk of you dying on top of that. If you do find an opportunity to fight him, whether it's with a gank or not, make sure to jump in his face at the right moment, without hesitating too much. By doing this, you cut his Q damage in half, deny the heal, and make it so it doesn't apply a stack of his passive, buying you more time to react. While it's a risky thing to do, with a chance of it backfiring badly, it will greatly help all-in Darius when the right time has come. In teamfights however, it's probably better to play a disengaging style, and primarily let your AD carry or mid laner deal the damage, while you juggle his aggro and making sure he doesn't reach full stacks on one target. This advice alone can help a bunch when facing a Darius, but to get more specific, let's look at champions you should avoid picking, and champions that work well against him. First off, as already stated, melee champions generally have a really bad time. Overall, anything that needs to scale up to be effective is subpar, unless you're looking at someone who can farm up safely or completely interrupt the fight whenever he wants to. Prime examples for the category will be Malphite, Nasus, Gangplank and Garen, as they have no reliable way of getting out and can be zoned away from the creep wave easily. The same applies for more squishy champions like Irelia, Wukong and Jax, who do have a way of disengaging a fight, but will still end up losing a ton of HP regardless, making you an easy target to die. Now for the most important section, the counter picks. Primarily, you should be looking for ranged champions with lots of wave clear and CC, or melees with strong all-in or disengaging potential. The most obvious choice is Gnar, as he's been a standard pick against Darius in competitive matches as well. Although you need to be careful early on due to Na being squishy and having a relatively short range, you greatly outscale Darius in a 1v1 scenario. By rushing Frozen Mallet and or Black Cleaver, you can always keep Darius at a distance with him being unable to close the gap reliably. And even if he does get a hook on you, you can simply hop away and continue bullying him around until you go for the finishing blow. Other great ranged AP picks would be Cannon, Lulu and Lissandra. Cannon especially is my pick to fall back on whenever I play against a Darius. He offers great poke and if played correctly, forces Darius to build early magic resistance, which will make his teamfighting much worse until later into the game, while yours will be insanely strong with the ultimate alone being a game changer. By rushing Rylai's, you can basically do the same thing you do as Na. Permaslowing a Darius is the best thing you do, and the added stuns on top of that only make it better. Lulu and Lissandra are also great picks, mostly for their insane amount of inbuilt single target CC, peeling and wave clear. If you don't feel comfortable going toe to toe against a Darius, these might be for you. Simply Q the wave a few times and walk away, without ever fearing being engaged on. And during teamfights, Lulu ult can deny Darius ult if you timed correctly, and Lissandra ult will either peel him off you or others. If you're looking for another ranged AD alternative, Jace can be a great pick. His ranged form, again, offers insane poke in and out of lane, and his melee E will just smack Darius away whenever you want to stop a fight. His all-in potential is also pretty good, so jumping right on top of him when he's low enough might be resulting in a quick kill for you. And now onto melee champions. As a disclaimer, these matchups can potentially go either way. You really have to have some experience to understand when to go in and when to exit a fight. If played well, however, all do fairly well against Darius. Another highly contested pick in the current meta is Fiora, and boy is she strong and probably deserves a video on her own. But for now, let's talk about why she's good against Darius. Fiora's Q allows her to easily get in and out of fights, all while sneakily proccing some vitals for sustain and poke. If you do find yourself in an all-in situation, it gets a bit tricky. Darius ult has a pretty noticeable wind-up time. If you time your riposte correctly, you can completely deny his ultimate and most likely kill him afterwards. It can be hard, but it's definitely a great way for more experienced players, and one of the most satisfying on top of that. Renekton, Olaf and Mundo are other melee champions with a lot of potential to win against Darius. Renekton simply dashes right on top of Darius, deals a ton of damage and dashes out again, leaving him with low HP and no way to fight back if done quickly enough. Your ult is also great to deny his ultimate if he thinks that he's ready to execute you. Olaf is pretty straightforward. Once you have an item, you simply poke down Darius a bit, bait out his Q if possible, and then just all in him while staying right in his face. Your undertow slow and ghost speed up will be really hard to deal with him, since he'll lose an auto-attack fight and he can hardly get away from you to hit you with his Decimal Blade. As long as you don't get low before you try to all in him, you should be able to come out ahead. Mundo is basically the exact opposite of the other champs. While he does have a relatively weak early game since he's squishy, he has the advantage of being able to farm from a distance whenever he wants to. Once he's poked down, you can even go for a fight. Your constant regeneration from your ult will be a major annoyance for him, and while he can still kill you, you should be able to at least survive laning no matter what. As an honorable mention, I decided to include Kayle. While I don't have too much experience with Kayle in general, her ultimate is basically the one single strongest spell to counter Darius. Similar to Fiora's riposte, you can simply deny his execute on anyone on your team, weakening him greatly. Not to mention that your slow lasts for a long time, making it hard for him to get anywhere in the first place. And there you go! Looks like Darius isn't the unstoppable monster after all, huh? Just some small adjustments and he'll be much easier to deal with, trust me. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video and can take something away from it. A like, comment or subscription would be greatly appreciated. And now, good luck on the fields of justice.